All right, thank you. Very beautiful morning there. Yeah, good. So, today's lecture, we are going to discuss about dietary fiber, which in other names it's called non-starch polysaccharides. With our learning objectives that we need to understand at length what dietary fiber really is. We need to explore into the different types of dietary fiber, and then we discuss the function of the dietary fiber to the health of an individual. And that will help us, by the way, have an understanding. By understanding what fiber is, you can know its role in very many health conditions, like diabetic patients, like people who are obese and everything. So you'll be able to apply this when you're doing your diet plans. That the dietary fiber is also one of the component of the diet plan that you have to focus on or have to increase to some extent, and everything like that. So it will take a great deal of understanding to be able to incorporate this into usable knowledge. So let's continue into our lecture, and we start by what dietary fiber really is. One, dietary fiber is a material that has been derived from a plant cell wall in foods. And all this and later dietary fiber was defined as the skeletal remains of plant cells that are resistant to digestion by enzymes of the man. Meaning your body, your digestive system enzymes does not really hydrolyze these plant cell walls, and meaning at the end of it all they end up undigested and they pass out from your body as feces, as waste. Though it's kind of said it comes out as waste, we'll later on get to understand how important it is, especially when it reaches the colon and everything, in terms of softening your stool and everything. We'll get to understand that later, but later studies have suggested that dietary fiber should be actually measured as the non-starch polysaccharides. Hence, that gives it the second name called the non-starch polysaccharides. And the main polymers are making up the non-starch polysaccharides. So polymers are all those complex compounds or molecules that have been formed from it. And these are described below. One is cellulose. Cellulose is the most abundant organic substance that is found in nature. Every plant cell wall has that compound called cellulose. And it is the principal component of cell walls in higher plants. That is it. All plants here have this, and in large amounts they have a lot of this. That's why you can't tell me you're going to eat a bark of a tree. It has a lot of this and you get nothing from that. And it is of higher molecular weight, polymer of up to 10,000 glucose units. You get this 10,000 glucose units that has been linked by the beta-1,4 bonds. Earlier under the lecture for carbohydrates, we discussed about this kind of linking, the beta-1,4 and alpha-1,4, 1,6 bonding and everything. So for cellulose, it is up to about 10,000 glucose units that have been linked by the beta-1,4 glycosidic bonding. And there is a strong inter and intron hydrogen bonding between the cellulose chains that leads to formation of microfibrils. Microfibrils are small fibril form of structures that tries to go through tiny, more like threads being formed together. Let's take an analogy of spaghetti. If you hold spaghetti together, each strand of a spaghetti would be called a microfibril, and the whole spaghetti being held together can represent our cellulose. So each of those strands have been held together strongly by intra and inter, meaning between one microfibril and another there is a strong bond, and also in between one microfibril there is another strong bond, so it holds it strongly together. And to the development, and that has resulted in highly stable crystalline structure. This structure is very stable and it looks like crystalline, it's solid. So cellulose does show a low chemical reactivity, meaning it doesn't react chemically anyhow. Very low reaction. And this explains its characteristic physical property, that it is very strong and it cannot really be digested easily. And second is the hemicellulose. are branched polymers of hexose and pentose sugars found in virtually all plant cell walls. These are not straight chains, they are branched. So these are polymers of hexose and pentose sugars. Hexose, I think we discussed this earlier under carbohydrates, but as a recap, hexose has 6 carbon sugar molecules, which are the glucose and everything. Pentoses are also the 5 carbon sugar molecules. We get to understand this if we rush back and look into our notes. So if you've forgotten of what these pentoses and hexoses are. But these sugars have been bonded together and they are branched, so they form for a relatively short polymers that has up to around 50 to 2000 to 200. They have around 50 to 200 residues of these hexose and pentose sugars, and is a constituent. The constituent of the sugar of the polymer chains vary according to the plant source. So each plant has its own kind of the content of the pentoses. We may have maybe a neem tree having its own pentoses and sugars, forming them together. And if we have also eucalyptus, it has its form differently. So, and up next is what we call a pectin. Pectin are branch polymers that are characteristics of immature parenchymatous tissue found in fruits and vegetables. You look at those molecules when you cut a fruit, you cut a vegetable, you look deep inside it, they are immature parenchymous. So commercially, pectin is extracted from citrus fruits, rind, those rings of them, and you use as stabilizer in food manufacturing and a gelling agent in jam. So that's it. And then we have a gum, a water-soluble viscous polysaccharides of up to around 10,000 to 30,000 units, and mainly glucose, galactose, and mannose have been joined together. And these gums are used in food industry as well as emulsifiers, stabilizers, and thickeners. Though your body cannot digest them, though. And we can have a question: use of non-starch polysaccharides in the food industry. You now have some answers. Used for stabilizers, used for emulsifiers, used for thickeners. Yeah, it is used as a gelling agent, so you can give all those and examples and everything. Lignin, wow, this is the woody fiber found in stems and seeds of fruits and vegetables. All of us, at least at some point, you have seen a cut tree or you have cut a tree itself. So whatsoever you're cutting, which is on the stem, that's exactly what a lignin is. Very hard, packed together, looks like a small rings that have been joined together by each other, and that's it. It's actually not a carbohydrate, but it's a polymer composed of contained of phenylpropyl alcohols and acids, and it may have properties that are used in cancer prevention. So, meaning, as nutritionists, when you decide to be an oncology nutritionist, you can now try to make products out of these for cancer, since it's proven scientifically that it has some properties that can prevent cancer. So you may look into that. However, even dietary fiber, other forms of it itself, those that you get from fruits and vegetables and everything, have the anti-cancer functions. So you could look into that and improve life through nutrition. I have dietary fiber that is normally defined as that portion of food that comes largely from plant cell walls. That's just a re-emphasizing of something, but we have talked about it earlier. And it's not readily digested by enzymes in the human digestive tract. Although the term fiber and refuges are sometimes used synonymously, fiber is the preferred term and includes both water-soluble and water-insoluble fractions. So you get to understand types of fiber right here. The dietary fiber originates in fruits, vegetables, and cereal grains. That's basically nutritionally. These things of lignin and everything, we nutritionists, we don't really tend to think about them much, because you cannot go and cut for me a stem of a tree to consume in the name of preventing cancer. Though many people will accept that when someone is desperate and wants to heal cancer, of course, that person will do anything to do that. But as nutritionists, we need to put in something that is sustainable. So dietary fiber originates from fruits, vegetables, and cereal grains, and brands primarily from wheat is the most effective of all the insoluble fiber. So we have fiber. I think right here we already mentioning the types of fiber, which is insoluble and soluble fiber. And one of the example of the insoluble fiber is the bran, maize bran, wheat bran, and everything. All those ones are insoluble fiber. So what happens is that they are very effective in absorbing water to form soft, bulky stool. They increase the bulk of your stool. You go to the toilet and defecate and you feel like your stool is heavy. Yes, it is coming out well heavy and it is soft because it absorbs water. This absorbs water from your stool, from your digestive system. Later on, we'll need to understand that why you need to take a lot of water when you're on fiber and why you should introduce fiber slowly along the lecture. So soluble fiber, which is found mostly in fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and oats, form a soft gel, and meaning they form a jelly-like thing. They dissolve in the water and form a jelly-like thing, and that slows the passage of food through the intestinal tract and delays or inhibit absorption of dietary factors such as glucose and cholesterol. This gives you an understanding into something. When someone is fat, you recommend, or someone is obese, sorry, let me not use the word fat. Someone is obese, you recommend dietary fiber, you recommend, people have been saying, eat fruits and vegetables, eat fruits and vegetables. Why? The concept here is that one, it is going to help you in a weight maintenance because one of these things is that glucose. The food you eat in, it will interact or inhibit absorption of a lot of glucose in your body. Meaning much as you eat, some of the glucose may not be absorbed. People who are having heart disease, the strokes, hypertension and everything, cholesterol is one of the molecules that is really very dangerous and affects our body and can affect us all. It is one of the things called the bad fat in the body. It can get deposited in your blood vessels and then narrowing it, and that can result into hypertension. And besides that, or it can plague off. Those plagues can be can really peel off, or let me say break off. That should be the simplest term to use. It can break off and then it forms something like a clot in your blood that saturates, and once it blocks the coronary arteries, and then it results into heart attack. Once it reaches the brain, it can also cause the brain stroke, or it damages the blood vessels in the brain, and you can really die from that very fast. So it's very important that you have these fruits and vegetables who are the chief sources of the insoluble fiber, and they tend to reduce or delay the absorption of these molecules like cholesterol. Cholesterol is one of the essential nutrients in your body that your body do not actually need an external supply. It can synthesize it from your skin. It can synthesize it very well in the liver. So we'll get to understand that when we get to know about micronutrients, vitamin D, everything. So you get to understand this, that you need to now put this knowledge into perspective and how you can use it. If you are ready to get to teach someone or plan a diet for someone who is hypertensive, someone who is having diabetes, someone who is having coronary heart diseases, all those things, stroke and everything, you get to understand these concepts. And when you're planning or you're putting in something in a diet, you have a reason up to why you're choosing a particular food. Yeah, so basically it. And then soluble fiber here includes the hemicellulose, pectins and the gums, and they make up to 15% to 20% of the total fiber in the fruits, grains and vegetables, and less than 10% of that in the legumes. Legumes, nuts and seeds. So when the soluble fiber mixes up with water, it forms a gel-like substance, jelly-like substance. A gel that is what can I say? How can I describe it simply? Let's look at the jelly that you use, the jelly lotions and everything that you use to apply on your body. Baby jellies. It forms something of that kind that is soft, slippery, and something of that kind. So that substance would slow down digestion and help the intestine absorb valuable nutrients from the food. That's one importance of it. Second is that, like we mentioned earlier, that this is soluble fiber. This soluble fiber will also reduce or inhibit the absorption of certain nutrient factors like cholesterol and glucose. So then, looking into the non-soluble fiber, they pass through the small intestine largely unchanged. So in the large intestine, it is softened and adds bulk to your stool, meaning you have the solid body weight and helps your food to pass more quickly. So it increases the transit time. What are the health benefits of this dietary fiber? Is that one, dietary fiber increases the body's sense of fullness. You eat something little and you feel like you're full. Therefore, diets high in fiber can help prevent overeating and obesity. That's again is something that you need to understand. So, with the understanding of dietary fiber, you can be able to plan now to the person. Let's look at planning a diet for an obese person. One is that we are going to try to, the major thing, the key nutrients for an obese person is that one, you need to increase in the B vitamins. Actually, you need to put in the vitamins for the person to be healthy, immune system and everything. And then now, other thing is you need to, one factor that affects us glucose metabolism. Glucose that is so high and results into fat formation or deposit in your body. That process has been described earlier on. If not, we shall describe it maybe in another lecture, but I'm pretty sure the lecture has been done. So all this, if you can focus on increasing fiber, which will help in reducing the what? In reducing the absorption of glucose, then you shall have reduced that personal thing. However, you cannot eat out yourself out of this thing easily. You need to incorporate in physical activity that will help you also in burning this glucose, so that some of this fat can go through gluconeogenesis and be used for energy, and then they tend to reduce and you get well. So a diet high in fiber protects against one, constipation. Like we said earlier, that this will help in softening your, will help soften your stool so that you don't pass it a lot or hard or something like that, because it absorbs water, increases the bulk, make it soft. So there is literally no struggle when you go to ease yourself in the toilet. Emptying of bowel is quite easier, and this helps in preventing also other diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, diverticulitis and everything. So you don't have issues with your gut. It improves your gut health, meaning your gut health is not so much disturbed, because if you have constipation, you're making it hard for your anus to squeeze everything out, and coming out of that thing, hard things comes with fissures. It can overstretch your anus and you end up having some fissures, the breaking of the anus and everything. With time, you get to develop diverticulitis and everything, other conditions. So that's really a very hard thing and a very bad thing for you. Now, that's one of the benefits. Another thing is it reduces the low fiber. Diet low in fiber increases the risk of developing hemorrhoids and diverticulitis. Yes, this is exactly what I've been talking about. So those are some of the conditions. Meaning, if someone have developed these conditions, you need to be careful of how you're going to manage someone, how you're going to help that person get out of this. So like I've said earlier in the lecture, that you really need to have a great deal of understanding and incorporate this into applicability. How do you get to use it on your diets or diet planning, or how do you get to use it practically on health conditions? Still under health benefits of dietary fiber is that fiber also appears to have an effect on heart disease and diabetes. Studies have shown that soluble fiber lowers the level of atherosclerotic cholesterol in the bloodstream, meaning the level of your cholesterol that goes to the bloodstream is reduced. So meaning there will be no clogging of your blood vessels or blocking them due to the presence of cholesterol. That is, cholesterol have a very stubborn property that it is sticky. It is sticky, so it sticks together and forms something. doesn't move out of your body easily. So high cholesterol can contribute to atherosclerosis and coronary heart disease. We shall look into that later on. And then fiber also allows the body's absorption of sugar. It slows down the body's absorption of sugar. Like we said, sugar, glucose. Let's simplify it in that way. So by lowering the glucose levels, then fiber can help people with type 2 diabetes. Very good component. And you can control a person's glucose levels by increasing the fiber levels and then looking into the sources of carbohydrates that you have to put this person. Sources of dietary fiber. Most people in industrialized societies consume too little dietary fiber. That's really very true. Fiber can boost their intake of dietary fiber by eating more fruits. People can boost their intake of dietary fiber by eating more fruits, vegetables, and grains. We talk about dried peas, we talk about beans, especially high in fiber. Fiber has an effect of bloating. We shall look at that later on. Whole grain breads have more fiber than white bread because these have been processed. The white bread, the whole grain breads are not processed and their brands actually remain. But for the white bread that has been processed and even pastas, things like the spaghetti and everything, they have less fiber because those ones are processed from wheat. That's wheat that has been made into spaghetti, if you're not aware. So you're literally eating some wheat with proteins, carbohydrates, without any fiber, which other people prefer calling refuges, but the most preferred what is fiber, dietary fiber. So yeah, raw and cooked fruits and vegetables have more fiber than juices and other processed fruits and vegetables. Yeah, true, because fruits and vegetables, you're eating them raw and cooked and everything. There is nothing like softening of the structures and everything, so you get that. Examples are bran muffins, the oatmeals, brown rice, multiple grain cereals are all high in fiber. So is popcorn and skip the butter. Since popcorn is also having that, and leave alone the butter doesn't have anything with that. What's the question with dietary fiber? Yeah, people who increase their consumption of fiber should also drink more liquids to avoid constipation. Dehydration, sorry, not constipation. In that, once you don't take a lot of water, this thing will be absorbed into your body. We know the properties of fiber like we saw earlier, that one is absorbing the water into itself. So once you take a lot of fiber, it will get absorbed into your body and then you end up losing it in stool. And once there is not much water that the fiber can absorb in your body, you will still give out the hard stool. And also in addition, it is also a good idea to add fiber to the diet slowly. You don't eat so much. You eat slowly. So eating more fiber over a short period of time can cause what you call the bloating or intestinal gas, that is flatulence, and then mild abdominal crampings. Why? Because once the fiber reaches what you call the colon or the large intestine, it is acted upon or fermented by some bacteria, intestinal bacteria. So what happens usually is that this bacteria, this process of fermentation by the bacteria, will result into production of gas, which is carbon dioxide. And once you have a lot of it, a lot of fermentation taking place, gas will accumulate in your intestinal tract and you feel that bloating. Bloating, that gas will keep your stomach pressed and full. You feel full all the time. Intestinal gas, you have a lot of gas in your stomach. You go to the toilet, you squat, you want to defecate, only gas coming out. You're only polluting, you're only passing out air, no anything. And kind of when you pass out that air, for some time you feel like you're relieved somehow, but it still develops because the process of fermentation is still continuous. And of course that will give you the abdominal crampings. And though this disappear as the intestinal bacteria adjust to the increase in the fiber, that's why you need to increase it slowly. You increase today a little bit, tomorrow another one, and like that as the bacteria now gets to adapt to the digestion or breakdown of all these things. Yeah. The impact of dietary fiber on nutrient absorption and utilization. One is the presence of non-digestible oligosaccharides and visco dietary fibers such as the pectins, glucans, gums in the fruits and vegetables, cereals. They reduce the efficiency of enzyme hydrolysis and slows the rate at which glucose enters the bloodstream. That's how it affects that. So the glycemic index is, let's understand what the glycemic index here is. That is a ranking of food based on the postprandial blood glucose response compared with the reference food. This index integrates multiple influences of glucose availability and is proposed as the means of prescribing diabetic and energy controlled diet. So you need to understand what the glycemic index is, and that's basically how, in simple terms, I can say how much a food causes a rise in your blood sugar. And if you have dietary fiber, that glycemic index is going to be reduced and a little bit of the blood glucose shall be absorbed, just a little. So this helps you in prescribing the diets for diabetic or those energy control diets like those for the overweight or obese people. Insoluble fiber here will reduce fat and cholesterol absorption. They, however, do not always alter serum cholesterol. They do not alter it because, like I said earlier, serum is synthesized from your body. Sorry, not serum. Serum cholesterol is synthesized from your body. It's one of the essential amino acids. So your body simply cannot reduce its level, but what your body produces is really enough for itself. So our problem here is the one you take from your diet: unhealthy fats, the unsaturated amino acids, the saturated fats, trans fats, and everything. All those shall be taken here. So your body can produce its own, and if there's any deficiency, the body can compensate for it. Any malabsorption of cholesterol, it is compensated for because the body can really make its own. Then soluble fiber here appears to significantly lower the low density lipoproteins. Low density lipoproteins, what we call also bad proteins. These low density lipoproteins are transporters of cholesterol. They carry cholesterol from the liver, which is the site of cholesterol destruction. Cholesterol can be broken down and produced for you bile and everything, bile salts and all that. But instead of leaving it there to be utilized for that process, these low density lipoproteins will carry it into your blood, where it will result into long-term cholesterol. We talked about atherosclerosis earlier on and heart stroke and everything. So fibers will bind fecal bile acids and increase excretion of bile acids derived from cholesterol. And then fiber also prevent dietary fat and cholesterol absorption by binding bile acids of fats and lipids. Fermentable oligosaccharides and dietary fibers converted to short-chain fatty acids by intestinal bacteria. So fibers, especially the soluble fiber from oats and soy, lower blood lipids by mechanisms that are presently unclear. So it's not so clear how this process of soluble fiber lower these lipids and everything, but it's the binding part of it that has been explained and emphasized on here today. So basically, thank you very much. We've come to the end of this lecture today.